Good morning. Welcome to Village in Motion. Today is Friday, September 22nd, 2017. My name is Susan Gerhardt, and I'm here this morning with Betty Keneally from the DAR chapter here in Green Spring Village, one of our residents. And you are going to introduce our guest this morning. Betty,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. Our guest is Mary Susan Sims. She is our new regent of the DAR chapter here at Green Spring. It means she is the president or the head of the DAR. And she's just became our regent in May, so we're very happy to have her.
So being the regent of the group here at Green Spring doesn't mean that you have to be a Green Spring resident.
No, it does not. In fact, 52% are residents, and the rest are 52% of residents, and the rest are staff and other people.
How many members do we have in our chapter here?
About 101.
100. Wow, that's a big chapter.
Yes,
It is a big chapter.
Tell me about the DAR. I understand the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution, is no longer little ladies in white gloves and hats.
No, not exactly. It has evolved. It has changed with the times. It has grown. It has matured. And it has a whole focus of sharing the patriotic nature of our wonderful country, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the patriotic nature of all of its citizens, and it's just been a real blessing for me to have this opportunity to lead this group.
Who can be a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution?
Any individual, any female, who can prove direct lineage to an individual who has helped, served in the Revolutionary War. And that can mean not just being a soldier, but say paying taxes, lending your gun, giving a cow.
Paying taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
So even if someone was a citizen of the United States at that time and paid taxes
that went to support the Revolutionary War, that individual can be considered as a potential member.
That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
I know one of my ancestors somehow or other contributed food,
Yes.
and that became
Exactly.
a supporting
Yes.
bit of evidence.
It goes with the almost that saying that they use today, that they also serve who wait, and talking about families and that type of thing. So those individuals on the ancillary edge of the military and of the war back then are now being considered for membership.
So pretty much, if you were on the side of the colonial people, you could kind of.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to go quite that far, but because it does have to be proved. And
Yeah, you would have to come up with a way to prove it.
Yes, you have to. You really have to be able to prove it. And because of DAR's strong connection to genealogy and their emphasis on the necessity to delineate that heritage, is what makes it such a strong organization.
I know we want to get onto the Constitution, and we just have a short period of time, but I do want to talk for just a minute or so about the genealogy aspect that DAR helps those of us who are interested in genealogy to gather information. Whether you are a DAR member or not, the DAR has a wonderful resource that it openly shares in terms of genealogy information, that if your family happens to have ancestors who were part of the revolutionary time period, that you may be able to find genealogy information in the DAR library and on the DAR website.
Correct.
And another piece of this is that there's a complementary group called the Sons of the American Revolution.
Very definitely, or the males.
Where you can also find genealogy information.
Exactly.
Right. One other piece, and that is that our group at Green Spring is staff, residents, and people from the outside also, but also young people can belong to the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Most definitely. And while the Green Spring, in our chapter is the George Mason chapter. He's the patriot that the chapter is named after or for. We are getting more and more young people to join this particular chapter, and it's really uplifting to see this. We see grandmothers and granddaughters coming in.
Age 18 and over, correct?
Yes, age 18.
And there are some chapters that are just for younger people.
Yes, there are. And there are some chapters that are international. There are about 3,000 here in the U.S., and as I said, some chapters that are international. And we have, here in the state, we have about 135, 37 chapters just within the Commonwealth of Virginia.
That's amazing. Wonderful. And nationwide, DAR has how many?
About 3,000 chapters.
3,000 chapters.
And about 185,000 members.
Very active group.
Very active.
So one of the many initiatives that DAR has is supporting Constitution Week.
Very definitely.
And perhaps, I think we have a poster here, and hopefully one of the cameras will focus on that. Constitution Week, and we're just at the end of Constitution Week now, but it's something that we can talk about, and it doesn't mean that you can only look at the Constitution this week. Constitution Week is just encouraging people to, hey, stop and think about your Constitution, look at it,
and
read it.
Read it. That's the goal, is to get individuals out there to read the Constitution. It's about 4,400 words. It was written under some very unique circumstances, and hopefully we'll talk about that in just a minute. But it is it's a challenge for a lot of people because sometimes they don't understand it. But it is an opportunity to learn our history, to learn its impact on our history, and to make others aware of how it can impact the future as well.
You were telling me before we started here that when you were in school that it was a kind of a requirement many years to read it.
It was.
And I commented that I couldn't remember whether I'd ever been, I'm sure I'm forced to read it, that I'd ever been encouraged to read it, but I'm sure I was at some time.
Yes.
More than once, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, right. But that's a good thing for grandparents and grandchildren, maybe, to sit down. Let's sit down and read through this.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe there are many children who haven't done it. You gave us a wonderful, some teaser notes here about the Constitution. I found some of these really fascinating. The Constitution, and we'll just go through these, some Constitution trivia. The Constitution was written when?
The Constitution was written in 1887.
Not 1887.
I mean, 1787.
Good, right there, Mary Susan. So you missed the first question.
I missed the first question.
1787. And where was it written?
It was written at what was at the time known as the Pennsylvania State House, which is now Independence Hall in Philadelphia, at the same place that the Declaration of Independence was written.
In that if you've seen the musical 1776, it was in that same building.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I hope maybe it was a little cooler during. Over what period of time was it written? Do we know?
It was over, I want to say, a 30, 45-day period.
Okay.
That's just my memory. I don't. Please don't hold me to it.
So those 400 words you told me about took them
4,000.
4,000 words.
Yes.
Okay, 4,000 words.
Yeah.
Took them a while to put together.
I can tell you that the Constitution was written behind locked doors.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was interested to read that.
And sentries were posted outside.
That's just as well, because you never know who's looking.
Or who's listening.
That's right. A good point. Yes, right. There were no listening devices at that time, but you never know who was there. And it was interesting that you said here that some of the original framers and many delegates in the state ratifying conventions were troubled that the original Constitution lacked a description of individual rights. So then already in 1791, they were adding a list of rights to the Constitution, and then we came up with the Bill of Rights that was the First Amendment.
And it was our patriot, George Mason, who was the champion of the Bill of Rights. And he was very adamant and stuck to his gun, so to speak, about making sure that they became part of the Constitution.
And we've been adding to it ever since.
Yes, but it's interesting that there have been some 11,000 proposed amendments to the Constitution.
Kind of nonstop ever since then.
Exactly. Now, of those 11,000, there were only 27 that have been approved and have been added as an amendment to the Constitution. That's an interesting.
We filtered.
Very definitely.
Thank goodness. Yes. We just have a couple of minutes left. There was one of the most interesting ones here, and I don't think I knew this, although obviously I'm not a good history student. Probably I should have known this. Established on November 26, 1789, the first National Thanksgiving Day was created by George Washington as a way of giving thanks for the Constitution. I didn't know that piece of it.
I didn't either.
That's what we were giving thanks for.
I didn't either. It is, in a sense, different because if my research is correct, the Thanksgiving that we celebrate now, I believe, was under the presidency of Abraham Lincoln as a national holiday. But George Washington was the first to say, let's have a Thanksgiving Day
for the Constitution.
For the Constitution.
And very interesting.
Yes.
Makes much more sense than I think that gives an additional meaning to it.
Yes.
Yes. Very interesting. And it was interesting here that of the written national constitutions of the world, the United States is the oldest and the shortest.
Yes.
So we did something that we got concise.
Yes.
That's excellent. We have just a minute left. Is there any final word you'd like to say?
One of the blessings of the Constitution is our right as citizens to vote. If you have an 18-year-old that you know of and a grandson, a granddaughter, a grandniece, grandnephew, when you send them that birthday card, include a voter registration card.
Where can you get one?
You can get one at any library. A lot of the public affairs offices of the courthouse or anything like that can do that.
What a great gift idea.
And it makes them more aware of their responsibility. It is our responsibility to vote. It's not a privilege. It is a responsibility given to us by the Constitution.
Wonderful. One other thing. If someone would like to join your chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, they can call you, Betty?
They certainly can.
Betty Keneally,
and I would gladly take them to a meeting and introduce them.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for joining us today, ladies, and thanks for the education on our Constitution. And we'll be back in just a moment with another segment.